By the end of this video, you will be a master at finding cheap flights. Finding flights at a good price is one of the most daunting tasks for many travelers, but it does not have to be. Hey guys, my name is Ryan. Welcome to Finding Yugen. If you are new to the channel, this channel is all about responsible traveling while on a budget. And today I'll be showing you my super efficient method in finding cheap flights. But before we get into it, make sure you hit that subscribe button so you don't miss out on any of my weekly videos just like this one. Before I jump into this 5-step method, the first thing I need to tell you guys is that if you watch any travel vlogger, read any travel blog, you will find that any experienced traveler will tell you that you need to be flexible. Be flexible in dates, be flexible in times, layovers, and even destinations. And I will dive into flexibility in step number 3, but step number 1 is all about being incognito. Now, there isn't a lot of evidence to support this claim, but the general idea amongst travelers is that if you are revisiting a flight over and over and over again on an airline search engine, the airline search engine will actually keep track of your cookies and data and eventually hike that price up a bit, so then you get a sense of urgency to buy that ticket now before it becomes unaffordable. Now, the way to avoid this is to delete all of your cookies, number 1, and number 2, search for your flights using an incognito window, so that when you are visiting these sites, they cannot track your data. The second step you're going to want to take is to check out sites like these to check out flight deals and fare drops. Now, probably 9 times out of 10 you won't find an awesome deal for your intended flight dates, but it's always a good idea to check these out first. You can also set up price alerts with different deal sites and airline search engines just by typing in your email address, and then you can get a price alert when your flight drops in price. Or you can also set it up so that you put in your departure airport and they will tell you when cheap flights are flying out of your airport. The last thing you're going to want to do for deal hunting is make sure that you sign up for deals from airlines or airline search engines. You might get a bunch of emails from them, but eventually they'll send you a good sale. It might only last a day or two, but it's still a sale that gets sent right to you that you can capitalize on. Alright, so after you are done searching for your deals, step number 3 is opening up Skyscanner and Momondo in your incognito window. Now, with my experience, these are the 2 best airline search engines as they search hundreds of major and budget airlines to find you the cheapest and best flight possible. What I really like about Skyscanner and Momondo is that they use a really efficient color coding system to show you when the cheapest fares are. So they'll show green for really cheap, orange for moderate, and red for expensive. Though I will say that I think Skyscanner does this a little bit better. So when you choose a whole month as your date, you can go ahead and hit search and it will show you the individual cheapest prices for each of the dates of the month. Momondo, on the other hand, when you go to pick your departure and return dates, it'll actually just show you just colors on the dates of the month as you go to click your departure and return dates. Now is when we get into the real meat of this, and that is what you need to keep in mind when you are booking your flights. The first thing you're going to need to keep in mind is to be flexible. I said this earlier on, and I'll say it again now. It is key to finding cheap flights. You need to be flexible in your dates, you need to be flexible in your times, you need to be flexible in your layovers, and you need to be flexible in even destinations sometimes. Skyscanner and Momondo are actually really good at this. You can actually set your destination as everywhere, and both Skyscanner and Momondo will show you the cheapest flights around the world for whenever you are trying to depart. To take it one step forward, Skyscanner actually lets you choose cheapest month as departure and return dates, so that on top of searching everywhere around the world, you can see what month is actually the cheapest to find good flights. Now, I'm sure we would all love to be that flexible, but I know sometimes we just can't be. If you really aren't flexible in your destination, a good tip that you guys can keep in mind is that you can try to land in either another city or a larger airport nearby, and then book a separate flight to go to your destination city. The thing is, if you land in a larger city with larger airports, usually the airfare to get to that larger airport will be much cheaper. If you are using this method, you want to make sure that the transportation to go from that city to your real destination isn't as expensive or more expensive as if you just booked the original ticket. So the most common way I see people doing this, let's say that you are trying to go from New York City to Berlin, but you found a cheaper ticket in Munich first. So you book that international flights from New York City to Munich using Skyscanner or Momondo, and then from there you want to use a domestic search engine to book a flight from Munich to Berlin, just because if you are booking using an international search engine for domestic flights, the fares can actually be a lot more expensive. I've also heard that using Google Flights is really good for regional fares, so if you can't find a local search engine that you can purchase a domestic flight on, use Google Flights and see if you can find a cheap local domestic flight. In the same general area as this, you can also book your own layovers instead of letting airline search engines do this for you. Many times you'd be able to find cheaper layovers by doing this, and if you can actually stretch out your layovers over maybe a few days, if you want to stay in that middle city for a little bit longer, you can try to stretch it out and see if you can get even cheaper deals. What you can do is just search on Momondo, search for the first flight to, let's just say you wanted to go from New York City to, I don't know, we'll just say Barcelona, and that's going to be your layover city, and then you can see from Barcelona the cheapest flight to get to Berlin from there. Just something to keep in mind, if you are booking your own layovers, make sure that you guys give yourself enough time between flights, at least 4 hours, just in case that first flight is delayed, and if you miss your second flight, the thing is the second airline will usually say, we don't have to refund you because that first flight had nothing to do with us. So make sure that you guys actually give yourself enough time between flights. There is a website called kiwi.com that actually, if you book different layovers, it has its own guarantee and it will refund you, but I've never used it. Like I said, I usually just stick with Skyscanner and Momondo. Those are my top two and I love them. So just make sure that if you are booking those layovers, make sure you just give yourselves enough time in between destinations. And I just realized I did this like 20,000 times. I'm sorry. Another thing that you guys want to be careful of when you are booking between two different airlines is to make sure that you guys are looking at the fees associated with each flight. If the first flight allows checked baggage but the second flight doesn't, you'll find yourself paying a hefty fee to be able to bring your bags onto that second flight. So just be careful, make sure that you guys are being mindful, reading the fine print of these airline carriers. If you aren't exactly super flexible on dates, again, you can use Skyscanner's whole month search to check where the cheapest dates are within like a 3-day radius of when you're supposed to leave. Momondo also lets you search with up to a 3-day cushion when you are choosing your departure and return dates. I mentioned this briefly before, but if you are flying with a budget airline, make sure that you guys really read fine print and check for hidden fees, check for hidden baggage fees, check for fees for the use of entertainment, check for fees for meals, check for fees for actually checking in at the airport. Usually these fees will hike up the price of your ticket and it'll make it so that it was almost worthless to buy that ticket when you could have bought something that was maybe a little more expensive but much better. And I've actually been in situations where I thought my baggage was covered and it actually wasn't, and it's actually happened to me quite a few times where I had to pay for excess baggage. So just make sure that when you guys are checking budget airlines, you are checking for these fees. Now, some frequently asked questions are how far in advance should you book your ticket and on which days of the week should you book your ticket. So when it comes to how far in advance you should book your ticket, if it's an international flight, you want to do it about 6 to 8 weeks in advance. A lot of people will say you have to book far in advance. 6 to 8 weeks is usually a good cushion. That's around the time when airlines will assess the demand for that flight and they'll actually start to lower prices based on demand. If you are looking for a flight for the peak season, for the peak tourist season, you want to book at least 3 months in advance. Now, the longest that you can wait to book is until there's about 3 weeks left until your planned flight date, because after that 3 weeks, the flight price will actually start to increase as you get closer to your departure date. When it comes to which days of the week to book, it's actually not as transparent as it used to be. I still generally avoid Fridays and Sundays, and especially avoid holidays. But like I said, if you use Skyscanner and Momondo and you check out their cheapest flights throughout the month, you can see that, you know, maybe they'll have a cheapest flight on a Sunday or a Friday or whatever. Just make sure that you guys are checking those calendars for the cheapest dates available. Don't really worry about what time of day. Don't really worry about what day of the week. Just go in and check Momondo and Skyscanner and see what they have available for you. If you are a student or you're under the age of 26, make sure you guys are checking airline websites and sometimes even calling them to look for discounts. A lot of times they will offer 20 to 30% off a listed fare. What's cool about this is that usually these discounts will also transfer over to the airline's partners. So make sure you guys check out the 3 major airlines to see which airlines are partnered with which, and then you can be able to transfer your discounts over to different airlines as well. If you are a student, sign up for Student Universe as well. It's another search engine, but it's specifically geared towards providing discounts for students. Alright, step number 3 was quite a doozy, but step 4 is if you finally found that perfect flight on your search engine, do not book it yet. Go to the actual airline's website and look for the same flight through their website. Now, the thing is that sometimes search engines will not list the cheapest price, because if they list that price, they might not actually get a high enough commission to make a profit off of showing that flight. Go over to that flight's website, to that airline's website, look at what they have to offer, and then book accordingly. The reason that you shouldn't just go straight to the airline's website first is because sometimes they don't really offer really cheap flights. They don't offer the cheapest flights. So the reason why you want to use Momondo and Skyscanner is because they compare a bunch of different airlines to find that cheap flight. Something else you can do is take that flight that you found on the search engine and take that to your local travel agent and see if they can actually price match or lower that flight's price for you. And last but not least, step number 5, once you have booked your flight, you usually have 24 hours to cancel it. So within that 24 hours, usually around like 22, 23 hours, make sure you guys go ahead and check that flight again, see if there are cheaper prices for that flight, and if there are, make sure you cancel your reservation and book it again with the cheaper flights. If there isn't a cheaper flight, then you are all set. Don't worry about it anymore. It's booked. And don't go looking a week later to see if you can find cheaper prices, because by that point, the time period to get a refund for your flight will have vanished. So don't do that to yourself. Don't stress yourself out. Just be happy you found a good deal, and now you are going on the trip that you've always wanted to go on. One extra thing that I know a lot of people do is use points from credit cards to purchase their flights. I don't personally use this yet, so I'm not too comfortable talking about it, but if you are interested, I know that Nomadic Matt actually features a lot of advice, and he actually has his own book on travel hacking, so you guys can check that out. Speaking of Nomadic Matt, he's one of the few awesome sources that I've used to help me make this video. I will link them down in the description below, along with a bunch of budget websites, flight deal resources, as well as Skyscanner and Momondo, so you guys can check those out. Now, I know I said before that we are a responsible travel channel that focuses on traveling while on a budget as well, and I'll be the first to say that although a lot of the strategies I've listed today focus on traveling while on a budget, they aren't the most sustainable, such as booking multiple flights to get to a destination. It's always better to book direct, so you can limit your environmental impact. To make it a little bit more sustainable, if you do choose this method of booking multiple flights, try to make your stay in the middle city a little bit longer, just because then you can go ahead and support local businesses, support a local culture before going on to your next destination. Now, if you're more interested in the sustainable travel aspect of things, I will be going more in depth on how to fly and travel more sustainably next week. If you guys like this video, make sure you guys leave a like, comment, subscribe, hit the notification bell. Also follow me on my socials. I will leave the links to those down in the description below, and share this video with someone that you think can really benefit from this information. Thanks guys, and I will see you next week.